Next, we're going to hear Mr. Bloom, which is item 25 AB 1301. And let me issue the earlier admonition that to particularly the witnesses. The author pretty much they can say whatever you want to, but I would encourage the witnesses on both sides of the issue, to the extent that previous testimony covered overlapped with this bill, that you not be repetitive. So thank you. Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anticipating your admonition, I revised my comments. I hope you'll find them shorter. You should have seen them before. But thank you, Mr. Chair and Assembly members. My bill aims to start an open, honest, and thoughtful dialogue amongst stakeholders on how to best protect the public's health, safety, and environmental resources against the inherent risks of hydraulic fracturing, commonly referred to as fracking. Fracking is the injection of large quantities of chemical-laced water into wells under high pressure with the intention of causing geological changes that, if successful, release oil or gas. It also involves the redischarge of toxic water into other underground areas after it's pumped out of the area of the original fracking. Advances in technology have caused exponential increases in its use in California and other places in the United States. Public and scientific concerns have likewise increased exponentially, yet regulatory oversight lags behind, and there are, in fact, no regulations in California. Opponents claim that fracking is a completely safe process, and as we just heard a few moments ago, has occurred hundreds of thousands of times without incident, but also, I would point out, without monitoring. And a lack of incidents is simply not borne out by the facts. Like all oil and gas extraction activities, fracking poses significant public health and safety and environmental risks. Recall the Exxon Valdez, Deepwater Horizon, and other disasters. In each of these non-fracking cases, the oil and gas industry had opined that their activities were safe and that the regulatory environment was overly cumbersome. To be sure, existing oil and gas extraction operations are in fact regulated because of their inherent dangers. But again, fracking is not. The public is asked to trust that these practices are safe. The lack of regulations in an environment that should be regulated is a recurrent theme. In September of 2012, the U.S. GAO released a report which confirmed that oil and gas development, whether conventional or shale oil and gas, poses inherent environmental and public health risks, end quote. Earlier this month, the highly respected UC Berkeley Center for Law, Energy, and the Environment released a report which said, quote, hydraulic fracturing along with the other aspects of unconventional oil and gas production present risks to environmental quality and public health, end quote, and noted, quote, such developments may have outstripped the ability of responsible agencies to effectively oversee fracking activity, end quote. Now, I understand the potential for an economic windfall from fracking, but even a report from the University of Southern California, a report that touted the potential economic benefits of fracking in the Monterey Shale, raised concerns about the potential environmental consequences, raising the specter that, quote, that more widely spread usage of the associated extraction technologies could wind up doing more harm than good, end quote. Anecdotal evidence includes a leak in a Culver City well and a situation in Shafter where a video recorded a well operator dumping toxic fracking fluid into an unlined pond. This incident is now being investigated by the Central Valley Regional Quality Water Control Board. Had proper regulations been in place, neither of these events would have occurred. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is currently investigating potential drinking water contamination from hydraulic fracturing in 4 states. All of this is not to say that under the right conditions, oversight and regulatory enforcement that fracking cannot be done safely or without harm to the public. But to do so, we must identify the risks and assure the public that we are doing everything in our control to protect them. And to date, the state has failed to do that. Despite the inherent risks acknowledged by virtually every report, despite the documented problems and investigation occurring throughout the country, our agency, DOGGR, has not expressed significant concern and has moved at a glacial pace on regulations. With a moratorium in place, it is fully expected that the pace of regulation will speed up, as well it should. The proposed moratorium will provide an opportunity to pause and initiate a process that incentivizes all stakeholders to come together to thoughtfully and comprehensively develop the appropriate laws and regulations needed to protect public health and safety and to address the other inherent environmental risks. To further discuss the need for a moratorium, I have with me today experts in the field who wish to speak on the measure, and I'll allow them to introduce themselves for the sake of time.
Thank you very much. First witness in support.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Cassie Siegel, Center for Biological Diversity. Around the country, the damages from fracking and its aftermath to air, to water, to wildlife, to health have been severe and often irreversible. That's why the state of New York currently prohibits fracking while the risks are studied. The New York State Health Commissioner said recently, the time to ensure the impacts on public health are properly considered is before a state permits drilling. He said that some states began serious health reviews only after proceeding with fracking, but that it wasn't the right approach for public health and it wasn't the right approach for New York. Yet right now, oil companies are fracking our state and Californians are unprotected. No public health review is underway. State oil and gas regulators do not even track fracking, and they're ignoring regulations that should be enforced while instead discussing new rules for fracking that could be years away. These discussion draft rules are in many ways the weakest in the nation. For example, full public disclosure of the chemicals used in fracking has been recommended by a Department of Energy Advisory Board and many others. Some states require disclosure to regulators but have allowed public disclosure to be blocked by industry claims of trade secrets. This secrecy has been decried by doctors, nurses, legal scholars, and of course those exposed to the chemicals. Yet California regulators propose more, not less secrecy. Fracking companies would not even disclose chemical information claimed as a trade secret to the agency in the first instance. Regulators would try to collect this information only after a spill or accident when it is far too late. The public would never see it. This is just one example of how the draft rules fail to protect the public. But even the best regulatory system could not change one critical fact. It makes no sense to frack California to further our addiction to oil just when we need to transition to a clean energy future. AB 1301 has the support of more than 100 organizations, from the California Nurses Association to Family Farm Defenders, for one critical reason: it's a common sense measure to protect Californians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to point out that we're 3 hours into the hearing and we've heard about a third of our agenda. So at the pace we're going, we're going to be here for 9 hours. So very respectfully, I'm going to encourage everybody to be as brief as they can. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members. My name is Liz Crossan. I'm the Executive Director for the Los Angeles Waterkeeper. Today, I also represent the San Francisco Baykeeper and the California Coastkeeper Alliance, comprised of 12 waterkeeper organizations throughout the state. And while state oil and gas regulators drag their feet on enforcing existing rules or creating new rules to govern fracking, LA residents suffer from what is already occurring at the nation's largest urban oil field, the Inglewood oil field you heard about earlier today. It is adjacent to Ballona Creek, which is the largest tributary to the Santa Monica Bay. We don't know all of the chemicals that oil companies are exposing us to as they frack in our neighborhoods, but we do know enough that we know we don't want those chemicals in our air or in our water. Hundreds of those chemicals are used in fracking, and of the ones we know, more than 75% can affect the sensory organs and respiratory system, 52 can harm the nervous system, 40 the immune system, and 25% can cause cancer. And that's of what we know. Over 1,000 instances of water contamination from fracking has been documented around the country, not just groundwater, but surface water as well. Spills and leaks are commonplace, and fracking poses unacceptable risks to LA's water. Fracking also increases air pollution, including ozone precursors and air toxins. Are we going to expose people in Los Angeles already suffering from some of the worst air quality in the nation, to more dangerous air pollution from fracking. The South Coast Air District is currently studying the new and uncontrolled air pollution from fracking, but while they study it, we Angelinos are breathing it. And fracking is not just happening in LA. California's most vulnerable communities are the most threatened by fracking. Halting fracking is the only way to address these urgent environmental justice issues. AB 1301 would protect the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the health of our communities. Thank you.
Next witness.
Greetings. My name is Steve Craig, and I'm a farmer. I live in Monterey County, named Monterey. Shale comes from that county. I raise pomegranates. I raise olives. I think what I have to say is basically the opinion of the agriculturists in our county, and that is that you should strongly support this moratorium. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Doggers had several years to come up with a plan to regulate not only hydraulic chemical injection fracking, but also acid fracking. They have not done so. Even if they do so, they have approximately one staff for every 22,000 wells in the state. This issue needs regulation to protect our water resources. I'll give you one example of why the farmers are very, very angry. In the 1950s in Monterey County, there were 2 reservoirs constructed for the purposes of ensuring that the groundwater flows in the Salinas River all year long so there can be farming. There is a 15,000-acre fracking field BLM sale that has just gone into place right where those 2 reservoirs, built by the public, built for agriculture, debouche into the Salinas River. We want to see a moratorium put in place until this issue can be properly regulated. The Safe Water Drinking Exemption Acts have turned the entire system upside down. Regulators at all levels fail to act, fail to even respond to public requests to come to sites where fracking wells are actually constructed right on a river, in this case the Salinas River. So on behalf of the farmers of Monterey County, this is not just a Kern County issue, it is a statewide issue. And while I strongly support that you did the right thing on your decision regarding the fields in LA, it really needs to expand to encompass the state. And let that measure stand until the various government agencies at the federal, state, and local levels do their job.
Thank you.
At this point, we're doing it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your testimony. I'm told there's 60 people who want to speak, and so I'm going to have to invoke what I don't think I've ever invoked at this committee, which is people just identifying themselves, their organization, and their position, please. And otherwise, we're just not going to get through it all. So,
Catherine Phillips, Sierra Club, California, in strong support.
thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chair, I'll move the bill.
Andrew Grinberg, Clean Water Action, sponsor and support.
Okay, hold on before the next witness. It has been moved and seconded. Go ahead.
Damon Nagami, Natural Resources Defense Council, in support of the bill.
Thank you very much.
Kristen Lynch, Food and Water Watch, sponsor and supporter of the bill.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Tiger Jazz Trolls Big Stick, resident of Pacifica, California, in favor of the bill.
Thank you. Next witness.
Janine Bonaparte, Sausalito, California, wildlife rehabilitator and environmental cancer patient in support of the bill. I just have to add that my cancer was something that was previously almost never seen in this country, and only out in war zones, because it's linked to radiation and also linked to the chemicals that are endemic that are included in fracking. 25% of the chemicals they release that they've admitted to are carcinogenic.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Jean Jackman, grandmother of affluent Stanford hospital cared for children with athletic parents and grandparents who still
identify themselves
are ill, and we don't need more pollution.
Thank you. Next witness.
Charles Davidson, Move On East Bay Council, in very strong support of 1301.
Next witness.
Kate Ledger, on behalf of the 350 Bay Area, 350 Silicon Valley, 350 Santa Barbara, 350 San Diego, we're in strong support. And we are also want to support the environmental concerns people have raised, but also to point out the climate change impacts of fracking.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Mary Tzu, 350, retired physician. I'm speaking from the medical field. We have serious concerns. I prepared a 5-page summary of the Berkeley Law Report, 61 pages of reasons Doggerel is not
And we have copies.
protecting us. Please read it before voting.
Thank you for distributing it to us. I appreciate it. Next witness.
Linda Lustig, representing Main Street Moms of West Marin, strongly in support of this bill.
Thank you very much.
Elizabeth Beltran, Association with Californians Who Drink Water. We do not need to be educated by big oil on what fracking is.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Damian Luzo, Save with Sunlight. I'm a sponsor and I support the bill. But I want to mention that there were 40 earthquakes in North Texas where they'd never seen earthquakes since 1981.
I'm trying to give the people later in line the same
Thank you.
ability as you, so thank you. Next witness. Sorry to have to do that. Really am.
Wendy Williams, I believe in solar and wind for the future of California, and I support this bill.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Sefa Schiffman in support of the moratorium.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Cecile Muchnek, a little sad that there's so little time for people
I'm
to
sorry.
speak on
I
this.
really am.
Yeah.
But at least you're here. We appreciate you being here.
Annika Kreuter, representing Kisco Cares Foundation, strong support.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Terrence Smith, University of California, Berkeley, strong support.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Marie Hogan, 7th grader and future voter in strong support.
Thank you. Especially glad you're here.
Diana Delfo Zamora, Mothers Vista LA, strong support.
Thank you. Next witness.
Butte Environment Council, Dave Garcia, Northern California, strong support.
Thank you so much. Next witness.
I'm Andy Paik. I live in the million-person circle we saw earlier. I'm representing Southern California Earth First, and I believe the moratorium is the only way we're going to avoid the kind of environmental turmoil that other actions have caused. We will be here if fracking goes on.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Ellen Osuna, Occupy San Francisco Environmental Justice Working Group, in strong support. I invite you to visit the website shalebubble.org. Economically, it is inflated projections and diminishing returns, and this is not the same fracking that has gone on for 60 years.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Chris Stevens, representing family farms in the San Joaquin Valley for 4 generations. Clean water is California's liquid gold, not gas and oil.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Ingrid Brostrom, I represent the Center on Race, Poverty, and the Environment. We work with farm working communities in Kern County and also the California Environmental Justice Alliance, and we are in strong support of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Elisa Trigueros, I'm here representing Stewards of the Earth based in Ventura County, California. Strong support.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
William Fingerson, Citrus Heights, clearly seeing a reasonable cause to pause.
Thank you very much.
Joanne Vinton, environmental scientist, I support.
Thank you. Next witness.
Ray Leon, San Joaquin Valley Latino Environmental Advancement Project, in support.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Joanna Garaventa, Concord, California. I'm in strong support.
Thank you. Next witness.
Sheila Toth, UC Berkeley, strong support.
Thank you. Next witness.
Anthony Raduezo, San Francisco, strong support.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Andrea Weber, Center for Biological Diversity. I do not trust Dogger to handle this issue alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next witness.
Chuck Greenwood, grandfather, thalidomide witness. I've heard the opposition's arguments before, in support.
Thank you. Next witness.
Orlena Lackenbauer, I'm support of sustainability and support this bill for no fracking.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Hi, Pam Reichert, Sacramento County, in support.
Thank you. Next witness.
Lisa Wild, Native Californian, strong support.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Suhey Reynoso, student at University of California, strong support.
Thank you. Next witness.
Christine Shannon, lifelong California resident, avid gardener and school teacher, strong support.
Thank you.
Cheryl Davis, citizen and biologist, and we don't need politicians and lawyers interpreting scientific literature for us, and I won't write any briefs.
Next witness.
Rose Braz, I just wanted to speak for the 24 or so people who had to go pick up their kids from school who were out in the hallways to say we strongly support this bill.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Hello, I'm a student at UC Berkeley. My name is Sandy Rosales, and I am in strong support of this bill. I urge you guys to look at the states that have already halted this and to think of something other than oil, please.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Environment California, strong support.
Thank you. Next witness.
Pam Larry, grandmother from Chico, California, on top of the Tuscan Aquifer and an area that's starting to get fracked. Also here representing labelgmos.org and excited that our legislators will trust the people and the numbers rather than a few companies.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Luke Bright, support.
Next witness.
Hannah Hagan, environmental science student at UC Berkeley, in support.
Thank you.
Del Cox, Redwood City, California, in support. Thank you.
Next witness. Okay, I'm going to ask the witnesses at the table to make room for the opponents. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I invite opposition to come forward. And again, my apologies. I don't like to operate the way some committees do all the time, which is to cut people short. But it was just absolutely necessary today. So we did hear your voice. So we appreciate people coming. So. Please.
Mr. Chairman, members, Paul Diero representing the Western States Petroleum Association. I will not repeat myself from the statements I've made with Ms. Mitchell's bill. I do want to state that the regulations from the Division of Oil and Gas will evolve. It's the first step, and as they go through the regulatory process, you will see a different product as it relates to trade secrets. You will see a different product as it relates to groundwater monitoring. It will evolve to address some of the criticisms you heard today. And finally, if permission from the chair to ask a question of something that was said from front of one of the witnesses.
And who's the question directed to?
The young lady that was a lead witness sitting in this chair.
We'll call her forward.
That would be Ms. Crossan.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It'll be very brief. And the question is, she made a statement, there have been thousands of cases of groundwater and surface water contamination from the practice of hydraulic fracturing. Can we get a list or a cite of those cases? I'm unaware of them.
Is there such a list available?
This is an investigation conducted by ProPublica, and we would be happy to provide it to the committee.
Okay, provide it to the committee, and we will share it with the witnesses. So, thank you. Next witness.
Mr. Chairman, members, Theo Payos, representing the California Petroleum Association. Again, I want to repeat myself. The earlier comments, this bill is substantially the same as one that you heard just a few moments ago. Just a couple comments. And one is, we talk about a future without hydrocarbons, and I think someday we will all get there. But certainly the problem is consumption. It's not production. The oil that we extract in California is by and large used in California. If we're not producing it here, it means we're tankering it in from dirtier oil fields in the Middle East. We become dependent on those countries. We get involved in wars we don't want to get involved in. There's no easy answers, unfortunately, as it comes to energy, whether you're talking alternative fuels, whether you're talking all of the options that we've all debated over the years. So we just want to make that statement publicly, and we oppose the bill.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Yes, John Larea with the California League of Food Processors. That is, again, food processors. We also operate in some of the areas in which they're doing the fracking, and we've never had a problem that I know of right now among any of our members. One of the things, if you're going to pull a moratorium on to find out what this is doing to it, you may as well put a moratorium on us then too on food processing. There's gone 60 years without any kind of a major problem associated with this. In fact, the problems have all been minor. And as industry to industry, we tend to work with the other industries to make sure that we do not interfere with each other, that we do not harm each other's industries, and try to work with each other. And I think that's been proven over the last few years. So we are in opposition to this bill.
Thank you. We've had three main witnesses on both sides, so I'm going to have to treat the remaining witnesses the same way as the supporters. So just very briefly, thank you.
Yes, Mira Girton here on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce in opposition, also a job killer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next witness.
Mike Rogie with California Manufacturers in opposition.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in opposition? Hearing none, there is a motion that was made earlier and seconded. Do we have questions or comments from members of the committee? Yes, Ms. Grove.
There was a statement made about 700 and something incidences for groundwater contamination, and you said that you had a list and would provide it to the committee. Do you have that list with you today?
It's a investigative report from the organization ProPublica, and I don't have a hard copy with me, but we'd be happy to provide it.
You don't have it with you today? You come here to start a drilling moratorium and support a bill on drilling moratorium for fracking, and you have supposed evidence of 700 cases that can convince this committee to change its mind about supporting a moratorium if those cases did actually exist and you did not bring that document with you?
It's actually 1,000 instances, and that's an awful lot of paper. And I'm very sorry that that you would have liked to have a hard copy, and I don't have one, but we'll get it to you quickly.
You have 1,000 instances, and you can't provide that to us today.
Well,
It's okay.
I think one very, very important point is that this activity is going on right now in California uncontrolled. There is severe damage documented in other parts of the country, and that is despite the fact that in most cases nobody is out there looking for it. And so we have some instances documented by state regulators in Pennsylvania, by the EPA in Pavilion, Wyoming. But in most instances, regulators are not investigating. So in the case of Laura Amos in Colorado, who experienced an early fracking accident, her drinking water well exploded, and she was told by state regulators that the well was contaminated with methane, but don't worry, it's safe. She drank the water, she continued to breastfeed her infant daughter, and 3 years later she was diagnosed with an adrenal tumor. And it was later found that her well had been contaminated with a chemical called 2-butoxyethanol, which causes adrenal tumors. The drilling company denied it at first, but ultimately they were fined by state regulators. The chemical was in the water. Laura Amos received an undisclosed settlement. But official state records from that particular incident indicate that fracking was not to blame for that accident, though I think most of us would agree that that's a terribly disturbing story. So therefore, those who are impacted by this activity are forced to depend on investigative reports like the one done by ProPublica, and on local residents to be out there being watchdogs because our state regulators aren't doing their job. The Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board is only investigating this incident in Shafter because a local resident videotaped it from the other side of the fence and uploaded it to an environmental site for reports of environmental problems in California. So I just want to say that there is a lot of hard evidence of damage, and that's despite the fact that this is a largely uncontrolled activity and that we don't have monitoring systems in place that will detect damage before really catastrophic situations arise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and you specifically addressed another state. So I guess my question is, again, how many of those thousands of complaints do you have or assert take place here in California? And if you have those, did you not bring those documents with you again today to this very important hearing on fracking?
I believe I have a copy of the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board investigative order, and I'd be happy to provide
Please
that.
submit that to the committee. I appreciate it. Thank you. Mr. Stone.
Thank you. In the interest of time, I'm just going to reference my comments on AB 1323 and I support your bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Mr. Marsucci?
Yes, I'd just like to thank everyone who testified for and against. I would like to echo the chairman's earlier comments that I'm not sure if this is the final vehicle that should make it to the governor. I understand we have 9 bills dealing with fracking, and so I'm hopeful that the authors of the different bills will get together to work on what is the best solution for the state of California. But to move this bill forward, I will be supporting the bill. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second that was made earlier. If there's no further discussion, I will ask Mr. Bloom to close.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And in response to Assemblymember Marsucci's comments, there are 9 bills. We have been working and will work together to try and winnow those down as much as possible, and I think we will make progress on that. The industry, in response to Ms. Mitchell's bill, in opposition to it, made what I found to be an extraordinary mea culpa in stating that, gee whiz, we really feel like we just haven't done enough to educate the public on this issue. And yet, when the public asks questions about this practice, they are told over and over again, nothing going on here, move along, everything's fine, there's nothing to worry about, this is a safe process. When asked what is the formula that you're using? What are the chemicals in the formula? A wall of secrecy goes up and no information is disclosed because it's a trade secret and we can't do that. This is a situation that is crying out for regulation. We see before us an industry that is going to resist regulation. The best way to get everybody to the table is to use a moratorium. That's what will work. And I just want to say you've seen an extraordinary outpouring today that, Mr. Chair, you yourself observed for this committee. I've received nearly 7,000 emails in support of this bill. There is extraordinary support for the moratorium vehicle to be used in this particular situation, and I urge your aye vote.
Okay, thank you very much. Please call the roll.
Do passed appropriations. Chesbro.
Aye.
Chesbro, aye. Grove. Grove, no. Bigelow. Bigelow, no. Garcia. Muratsuchi. Muratsuchi, aye. Patterson. Skinner. Stone. Stone, aye. Williams.
Okay, that bill has 3 votes. It needs 2 more, and we will complete the roll on it when members return from their other committee assignments. So thank you very much, Mr. Bloom.
Thank you for your time.